Hey everybody, Madison Poole here. I am joined to my left by Carleigh Fairchild, and we're at the Woods Runner School. She came down to visit us, and I'll tell you, this interview has been coming for a long time. It's probably been a couple months. I've seen her at Georgia BUSHCRAFT a couple times, and we've kept having rain checks at events that I've gone to see her at. So finally we're getting the interview done, and the one thing that I kind of hold above all else with Carleigh is the fact that she can teach something from an experience point that nobody else really can, and that's the fact that she survived 86 days in the wild by herself, filming it all, gathering food, just building her shelters, everything that had to do with survival. She did it for 86 days, so therefore when she teaches it, it's not theory, it is actual practice. So that's why I hold her opinions and philosophies in the highest regard. So, say
Thank you, Madison.
Say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here. Great to finally get this interview with you, Madison.
Yeah, it's awesome. So let's start off. Tell us a little bit about Carleigh, like where she learned survival, where you kind of picked up everything that you know, because has it been like a lifelong thing for you, or?
Yeah, I started when I was 13 at a place called the Children of the Earth Foundation, and it was based out of New Jersey at the time, and is the kids programs of the Tractor School in Tom Brown Jr. And I started learning, just went to their basic week-long summer camp and learned shelter making, fire making, how to purify water in the wild, what plants were edible. And that was the initial experience I had that really was inspiring to me, to hear stories of people living out on the land, and started me on this journey of learning all these skills. And it's been something I've continuously learned through all my adult years.
So it started off at a summer camp, basically.
Yeah. Started out at a summer camp.
That's pretty crazy. So let's see. You survived for 86 days on season 3. She was also on season 5 of Alone. And when you look back at that experience, what's like your overall impression of it? As far as, I mean, obviously you had a good impression because you did it a second time in season 5. But what are some of the most memorable moments from the show?
So many moments are memorable.
Okay, well pick one or two.
If anybody out there has done a vision quest before, it was a very long quest. Because I was out there alone by myself, away from so many things of the modern world. And I got to learn about myself on a level that I had never discovered before, and see just how much tenacity I have and drive I have to do something I love. And so being out there and making a home and living in it and connecting with the land on such a deep level, because I didn't have other people to connect with. And so I connected deeper with the land than I ever have before.
Okay, so is there stuff that happened off camera? Because I mean, obviously you're filming probably 18 hours a day or something when you're filming it. There's got to be something you're like, man, they left that off. How did they leave? That was like the best part of my entire 86 days. How did they leave that out? What's something that you remember that they should have put in there but they didn't?
So much happened off camera, not off camera, but that didn't get included. One thing I really focused on when I was out there was to live on the land as a caretaker. And so instead of going out and being like, I need this to survive, I was like, okay, I need things, but how can I do that in a way that helps the land? And so I spent hours collecting materials so that I could do it in a way that was caretaking of the land. So if there's an area where there's tons of saplings growing up and they're not all going to make it to become a full tree, I would go in and cut out saplings to make it thinner so the ones left behind would be healthier. And I don't think that got on the show. Adventures that sometimes or hard to film. Nighttime things that happened, or one morning I got up really early, one of my, like the last week I was out there, and I climbed up the ridge behind where I was staying to watch the sunrise, because where I faced northwest, and there was a mountain range and trees to the east, and so I couldn't see it, and I wanted to see it at least once while I was out there. And so I hiked up when it was still dark, and I got to see the constellations. And the constellations in South America are somewhat different than the North America ones, but there's some that are similar. And so Orion's belt, I could see. And that morning it was in the eastern sky as the sun was gonna rise. And in that moment, when I first got to Patagonia, it was in the western sky at night. And in that moment I realized how long I had been out there. So long that a constellation I saw at night was now the one that I saw in the morning. It's like, wow, I've been here a while.
How did you keep track of time? I mean, I know when I go camping and I go, for a couple days at a time actually kind of like, it slows down. Mm-hmm. When I'm at work, it just seems like there's never enough hours in the day and you have so much to do. When you go camping, it's kind of like you slow down and everything just kind of stretches out, and you sit there and watch the fire and stuff. And how does one keep track of time? Days, hours? Does it change for you? Does it instead of going by minutes and hours, does it start going by days and weeks, or?
A couple things. So one, I had a spoon that I coal burned, and I had a long handle. So each day I carved a notch into that, and I carved them in groups of 7, so I could easily keep track of weeks. So that was one way that I kept track of time. And then I didn't think about it till I was out there, but because I was filming myself, the cameras had the date and time on it. And so, yes, I kind of got into a timeless state. Like time didn't matter, but I also was aware of what day it was. Like I knew when my birthday was, not because I pre-figured out how many days it was till my birthday, because I was like, oh, today's that day. And I knew when July 4th was, because that's when the camera had the date on it.
Did the production company come out and give you a happy birthday?
No.
No.
No. I was all alone for my birthday.
Sons of a guns. So, talk a little bit about your philosophy as far as the survival goes and living off the land. I often talk about it as far as there's like basically 2 groups. There's the militaristic preppers type of group, and then there's the group that's I affectionately call them bush hippies. And I hope that's not I hope that's not a derogatory term. Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like having Dave Canterbury versus Cody Lundin.
Right.
So talk about where you kind of fall on that spectrum and some of your philosophies as far as bushcraft survival, wilderness living, and ancestral connections and stuff.
Yeah. That's a lot of things to talk about.
Okay. Let's take it slow.
Let's dive into a slice.
Okay, so where do you fall into as far as, are you more on the militaristic prepper skills, or are you more of the ancestral skills and the bush hippie side?
Yeah, I'm definitely more ancestral skills, bush hippie, because I feel like being out in nature is a cooperative thing, and I'm not, militaristic, at least in my perspective, is often more like, I'm going to conquer the natural world, it's going to do what I need it to do for me to survive, and that's where it's at. Versus ancestral skills, bush hippie, we care about the connection with the land, because without it, we wouldn't survive. And so we need the land to survive just as much as we need to survive.
So it's like a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that permeates through everything I do. I'm always looking for ways to make the land a better place through my interactions with it.
What is your favorite knife?
My favorite knife?
Favorite knife.
My favorite knife is my LT Wright signature knife,
Is that the one you got right
which is the one that I have right here.
Shameless plug, by the way.
Shameless
Sell
plug.
it! Sell it!
I guess not shameless because Madison's bringing it up. Yeah, this is the knife that I took with me on a loan, and it's a basic bushcrafting knife, but it's super durable. It's got the 90-degree edge. And after I had it on the show, the company LT Wright Knives out of Ohio, which I love because Ohio's where I grew up, contacted me and said, hey, thanks for representing our knife so well. If there's anything we can do for you, we'd love to partner with you in some way. And we came up with the idea to make a signature knife. It has my quote, never give up on it, from my time in Patagonia. And it's just a reminder to follow your passions in life and don't let things stop you if you really want to do something.
Did you help design that knife, or?
This is one of their stock knives they already have. It's their Genesis.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And I liked it so much, there wasn't anything I wanted to do to change it.
What is your favorite friction fire style?
I want to say bow drill is my favorite.
Bow drill?
It's good in most environments, and I love it because of, it takes a lot to make a bow drill kit. You and I were talking about how to make one without a knife.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of pieces to it, but having all of those pieces come together and working with the right amount of pressure and the right amount of tension and the right amount of friction is something that can teach us so much about our lives and how we are in the world. And so not only is it a fire making, but it also is a way to learn about ourselves too.
Okay. Favorite shelter type?
Shelter? It depends on the context.
Okay.
Completely. And I guess fire making can be that too, but bow drill is pretty good across the board. For a quick survival shelter that I'm going to need for some short length of time, like days, weeks, maybe even, and if it's cooler temperatures, I would build a debris hut, because I don't have to have a fire to stay warm in it, and it'll keep me dry. I find them cozy. Sleep really well in debris huts. But if I know I'm going to be out for a longer amount of time, debris huts take a lot of maintenance. If you sleep in them every night, you've got to constantly get more debris and fluff it up, because you want as much fill on the inside to trap your body heat. If you got empty space, you're cold. And so in Patagonia, I built kind of a basket house where I made a stacked debris wall. So I made 2 parallel circles and then wove saplings in between each circle on itself, so it left a void in the middle, and I stuffed that with debris, and I did like an A-frame roof and shingled bark shingled debris, shingles on some of it, and had a fireplace on the inside, and was able to
stay warm.
Be good in that.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
I always get stuck on that question. If only we were live, we could get some questions. One thing I always love to tell people is that follow your passions in life and live the life you want to live. Get creative and find a way to live the life you want to live. And then second, I guess, to let people know is that I teach classes and I travel and teach. If there's a group of 10 people that are interested in a skill, I'll travel to their location and teach. And my specialty is definitely basket making, followed by shelter and fire making, edible and medicinal plants. So.
I was going to say, I learned, I took a class from Carleigh a month and a half ago or so, and I learned that I step on a whole bunch of food every single time I cut grass.
Yep, we have so much food in our lawns.
trampled underfoot. And basically, if a lawn company comes in and says, you want to get rid of that weed, you want to get rid of that weed, you want to get rid of that weed, you can pretty much guarantee that that weed, and that weed, that's food. And that's basically the way it boils down. They just want blades of grass, which is pretty much useful unless you're a billy goat. But
Even goats prefer other things.
so, where do we find Carleigh Fairchild at? Where do we find you online? Where do we find you to have these classes?
Yes, I have a website, carleighfairchild.org, and I'm also on Facebook. I've got a public page, Carleigh Fairchild Alone, and I'm on Instagram as well if you want to follow. My passion is the outdoors. It's hard to do the internet side of things, but I try to post as I can.
I'm right there with you. I just started Instagramming. I've been doing the YouTube for a while, and Instagram's kicking my butt. It's killing me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Instagram stupid.
Hard.
Technology's not my friend sometimes, but well, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down, talking to the viewers, and letting people know what you do and where you're at. And like I said, folks, if you have a chance, if Carleigh Fairchild is in your area and you see that she's teaching a class, I would highly suggest going, simply because, like I said earlier, she's teaching from a perspective that probably less than 1% of our bushcrafting, ancestral skills, primitive living skill community can teach from, and that is 100% personal experience. So she knows what works. She's done it. It's not theory. It's not out of a book. So I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Madison. And I guess to let people know, I live in North Carolina, and that's often where I have classes, but I do travel.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Madison.
Take care. We're good.
Break.